Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode where I have a very special guest today, Dr. Bijoy Mukherjee, who is an internal medicine specialist, and we are going to talk a lot on preventative health this week. But before we get started, I just wanted to remind you guys why we are doing this. We are doing this live interview with a integrative and functional medicine practitioner that I'm going to invite every week, who is going to share his or her wisdom so that we can learn something different, we can think outside the box and bring more wellness into our world. So that is the intent with which we have a guest every week. And so our guest this week is Dr. Bijoy Mukherjee, who I just mentioned is an internal medicine specialist practicing in North Houston area. He practices family medicine at WIndrose Family Medicine, where his patients has time and time again rated him as one of the North Houston's best internal medicine and family practice doctors. And not only that, his patients also find him to be a wonderful and caring human being. And one of the things that he does not all of us know about is he was a physical therapist in his first career before he became a internal medicine specialist. So welcome, Bijoy, and tell us a little bit about your background and how you came about practicing internal medicine and what motivated you to become one.
Sure. Thank you very much, Niti. It's a privilege to be on your show and talk a little bit about primary care and preventative health and wellness. Thank you for the opportunity again. Yeah, my journey has been a little bit interesting, a little bit out of the box. I studied in India, grew up in India, studied physical therapy there, worked there for 4 years in the academic institution from where I graduated, and really loved, being physical therapist, being in the academic center. And then decided that the knowledge that I'm imparting to my students and my future fellow colleagues was not complete, or up to the mark. And I decided that I will try and enhance my horizons and try and learn a little more. And I got into the master's program at University of Indianapolis in Indiana, and I came over on a personal front. I got married, and things worked out, and so the life led me to Indianapolis, and then I started doing my master's in physical therapy. Thankfully, I got the license to practice, but at that time the jobs were a little bit hard to come by for physical therapists in the early 2000 era. I finally got a job in Michigan, and so I moved from Indiana to Michigan and started working as an outpatient physical therapist, and continued my master's in PT. And eventually, life again led me to a hospital-based job, and I switched from being outpatient physical therapy to inpatient physical therapy. This was a level 1 trauma center in Detroit, called Detroit Receiving Hospital. And I'm very grateful. I'm very thankful life took me there, because once I started working there, my mentor, the head of the department at that time, he said, hey, and we used to converse about patients, and I would offer my suggestions as to, hey, we could do this or do that to expedite recovery and get patients back on their feet and all that. And he saw something in me, and he said, hey man, you should try and apply to medical school. And I was expecting my first child, and I go back home and I tell my wife, hey, what do you think about me going into debt and going into medical school? And she was like, are you so it worked out, and I have a very supportive wife. And eventually, again, I had to do my undergrad again to get my courses and all that stuff. So it took me a few years, but eventually I started medical school. I wanted to be a physical medicine and rehab doctor when I started, and then I just fell in love with internal medicine. Um, and thankfully, I got accepted into Wayne State, the same hospital, actually, for my residency program, and did my 3 years of internal medicine. And during those 3 years, I figured out that my passion was to really prevent people from getting to the hospital in the first place. I mean, that has always been my driving passion. Even as a physical therapist, I would help people to get better from their current state of illness, but I would always try to understand what led them to where they were and how to prevent it from happening. And I feel I have a understanding of disease processes much better now that I went through medical school, went through residency training, and I feel I can get down to the level of my patients, and patients are at completely different levels. Some of them have way higher intellectual capacities than I can ever possess, and some of them struggle with the complexities of healthcare, to understand what's the best pathway for them. And I feel I can reach out to all of the diverse patient populations that exists in our humanity, and give them something. Some of them
Hmm.
may take a minute of what I say to them. Some of them may take half an hour's worth of what I say to them. But I feel I can contribute a little bit, to try and keep them out of the hospital, to try and get them to understand a few basic concepts about health, that if they were to focus on, if they could do a little better, how that would help in the long term process, for their own healthcare journey. And that excites me. And most days I like my work.
That's way to go. Yes, and I am so amazed that what you bring to the table, Bijoy, is like you bring physical your background from physical therapy all the way to internal medicine, and you just tie it all together. And we know time and
I
time
try my
again.
best. I try my best.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I achieve every time, but I do try my best.
that's amazing. Yes, that's what we are supposed to do. Just try our best, and your patients are so happy. So that tells me that yes, you're going above and beyond for sure.
I'm very thankful. It's a blessing. A lot of people have helped me, where I have reached. My own personal family, my friends like you, who support
Mhm.
me. A lot of mentors. If I start naming them, everybody, we would waste an hour or more. Really, I'm very blessed to where I am.
Awesome, awesome. And the topic that we came up with today to talk about, and we all know that in our current healthcare system, the typical point of intervention when people reach out to you is when they are already sick or they have lots of symptoms. When they identify that, hey, I need to go to the doctor.
Sure.
And we know that it doesn't always have to be that way, right? if
Right.
if they work with you proactively towards getting better health, then they don't have to have that assistance. So I know you work proactively, so why don't you tell how people can go about navigating this healthcare journey more healthfully, such that they are ahead of the sickness, not they don't come to you after they get sick, or any primary care physician that they are seeing in their area. So
Right.
how do you
And
go about doing that?
sure. And yes, lot of patients, reach out to us when they are not feeling their best. Sometimes it's very urgent and acute, and most of the times it's been something's that's been nagging them, something that's going on. But there are many patients that I see who are doing really well, who are very healthy, who have a good approach towards health, and they come in for their annual physical exam, or just to, they're new in the area, they just want a primary care physician, on file, and they just come in and say, hey, show me something, tell me something, help me understand something that I can have confidence about my own health, and then I can keep working on parameters to do better. Again, when I was a physical therapist, and when I was doing my medicine and residency, and when I saw really, really sick people, and when I interacted with their families and friends, when they were upset and frustrated and angry, and the most frustrating part was not knowing what the outcome is going to be, feeling so overwhelmed with choices.
Mm-hmm.
The incapacitating fear that are they doing something wrong, or that fundamentally resonated with me time and time again. And I felt that when you are not sick, when you are feeling well, when you are doing quite well and don't have irritating, annoying symptoms, your mindset is such that even when we have a discussion about your sickness and health in future, you will be able to comprehend it. And obviously, nobody ever can give a guarantee that, oh, if you follow XYZ, you will never fall sick, or you will never
Right.
get it. that is not the point here. The point here is to understand and expect some parameters, some limitations to your health as you mature in your health journey, and try and do a few things that you control, that you as an individual control, and see if you can do the best of it, if you can stay optimized, as I like to call it. And that's where it leads me, and that's where I have coined this phrase where I talk to them about my four pillars of health. And I liken it almost to a table, that's sitting in your drawing room, living room, whatever, and it has four legs, right? And each leg is equally important as the other, right? It's not that one support is really extremely important and the other two or other three are not. All 4 points of discussion and education that we have is equally important. And those main points are going to be stress and anxiety management. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
be sleep and the need for sleep or restful sleep. It's going to be nutrition, and you are an excellent resource for that. And the fourth point is mobility. I personally struggle with it, and a lot of my patients struggle with it, finding time, finding the right approach, what is exercise, definition of exercise, and all that. But if all of us could spend a little bit of time working on these four pillars: stress and anxiety management, nutrition, mobility, and sleep, we would run our own biological machines to the optimized level. One day I'm going to die, okay, and that's a fact. And everybody's time is there on this planet. I mean, that's a philosophical statement, but also a biological statement too. But the journey of our healthcare, the day till we no longer exist on this planet, till that time, if we are standing on our own, if we are trying to if we are active, alive, doing better, those things will need a few investments, a few time, and a few amounts of money, and other aspects, investment in your health, to get you to that point where you are potentially on your own, and you're doing active till the very, very last days and minutes and seconds of your life. Yeah.
Yes, and everything needs planning. So just like you said, if we have those pillars, we if we plan for that before time rather than waiting till we get sick,
Right.
and if we have that system in place, we are able to do that. And so
Yeah.
just creating that environment for the body, providing the right resources to the body such that disease does not come in the picture. If we can create that, why not, right?
Right.
So I
Exactly.
know you practice that time and time again with all your
Yeah.
patients. You try
Unfortunately,
to
I mean,
emphasize that, right?
yeah, some of my patients get bored when they come every year and say, "Oh man, have you heard this?" But I keep reiterating it. Hopefully, every time they come in, they get one new nugget of information or something like that.
Right, right, right. Yes, exactly. And that at times, like it's like teens, right? Like teens, they don't want to hear the advice, but
Right.
it's like, yeah, that you will realize that, or you will
Yeah.
make sure you'll understand that at a later point in their life. But
Sure.
it is important.
Yeah. I mean, our job as healthcare providers, we have to keep saying and keep doing the things that we think is going to help
Help
patients.
them.
And
Right.
at some point in time, today, tomorrow, 1 year later, 10 years later, it connects, it clicks.
It
Okay.
clicks.
And then it makes it easier for our patients to, improve their health.
Exactly, exactly. So let's touch point on all of your four pillars,
Sure.
which are just amazing. So let's talk on the first one that you mentioned. So stress is like it's inevitable. We live in a world where stress it's all around us.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
just have to be better stress managers because that like I said, it's inevitable. And so
Yeah.
we do have pharmacological, non-pharmacological options.
Right.
So just identify, and why don't you tell, like, how do you weave that into your practice? Like what are the basic concepts that you make aware of that everyone should know?
Sure. Stress and anxiety management, these are words, right? When I use the word stress, when I use the word anxiety, I can use the word depression, I can use the word mood disorder, I can just use any emotions. I can say, hey, sadness, or complete mania, staying up all night and not needing sleep, going into exuberance, hours and hours and days in a time. All these kind of things, um, are part of a big umbrella. You can pick and choose, and you can
Mm-hmm.
name and define, but they're all part of a one big umbrella of things, which fall into mood disorders, if we want to call it that. And again, and before we go forward, I must mention, this is a very general topic that we are going to talk about and we are discussing. And if I mention anything specific, especially pharmacological wise, I do not mean that everybody should start looking into it or go take it or start it. If we have talked about anything specific, if you're going to talk about anything specific in this discussion, I hope and I pray that you will all please talk to your own healthcare providers to make sure that that's the right approach for you or not. Because we are just having a very, very general discussion, and not keeping anybody specific in mind. um, I, Niti, if you allow me, I'm going to start off with a fundamental definition, as I call it, and I feel in a very simplistic way, and I'm not trying to dumb it down, but I feel like if we can approach things a little more simpler in life, life would be eventually become a little bit simpler, and God knows we all need that. Um, I strongly feel anxiety is the difference between your expectation and
Mm-hmm.
your reality, or vice versa, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I expect something from somebody and I don't get it, that will lead to stress, anxiety, depression, sadness, even anger.
Right.
Or if I get it, right, that can lead to joy and excitement and exuberance and positivity, right? So the difference between your expectation and your reality needs to be really pared down for most of us to feel empowered, to most of us to feel adequate, to most of us to feel satisfied. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
and and, and believe it or not, in one form or another, whichever definition word you use, we are all aiming for that. When we close our eyes at night, we want to feel we are good, we are happy, we are healthy, we did something good, we have something to look forward to tomorrow, right? So
Right.
that's where the main thing comes. And people will always say, oh, I should lower my expectations. Not in every case, not in every case. If
Right.
humans were to lower their expectations all the time, we wouldn't reach the moon and we wouldn't reach the
Exactly.
depths of ocean, right?
Right.
Sometimes we have to really work hard to improve our reality. And one of the main cases that I see when patients come and talk to me about stress and anxiety and depression and all that is, oh, I there was a really good job opportunity, and I thought I was not capable of that, and then my friend gets it or my colleague gets it, and I know they are not as good as me, and I feel so bad. I feel I should have spoken up and done that and done this.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the time, your expectations, what is your expectation, what is your reality, and try to work and get them to the level point, right? And I also tell them that, listen, what is given to us is only today. I do not have a time machine, and I doubt if anybody listening to this conversation has any time machine that they can go back in time and change anything in their lives, right? We would like to. Most of us have some event that we think about and we keep stressing about, and we go round and round in our head that, oh, this shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have said this. The other person shouldn't have done that. But the point to note is we do not have a time machine. Okay. So then what we have is today, right? You and I, we just have today. And what we do today will impact our tomorrow. Now, tomorrow is not given. Unfortunately, something crazy may happen tonight and I may not see tomorrow, right? But the point is, if we are doing well, if we are taking care of our health, and if environment around us is doing relatively well, there will be a tomorrow. But I want to make sure that my tomorrow is slightly better than today. So I have to do something different, right? Because what is the definition of insanity, right? You keep doing the same thing and you expect a different result. So it's not going to happen. So then I have to do something a little bit today. And you can set up micro goals, you can set up macro goals,
Right.
right? For patients, I just tell them, hey, drink a glass of water. If you're drinking four, drink five. Okay, a little bit extra water, right? That could be a micro goal. And at the end of the day, do you ask yourself, hey, did I drink that extra glass of water? Go for a walk, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, if you can. If it's not hurting, if you're not in pain, if it's not 500 degrees outside, go for a walk, right? Uh, and then did you achieve it, right? Those can be micro goals. You
Mm-hmm.
can set up micro goals. You can set up 5 years later, I want to be here, or 5 months later, I want to be that. And then keep working towards it. Keep a daily goal, keep a weekly goal, keep a monthly goal, and start knocking it down. And that will give you self confidence. That will give you empowerment. And then you will find that the more you keep doing, the more disciplined you are, the more focused you are. You are achieving all the goals set. And that's when your reality and your expectations start matching up. And hopefully, you feel better and you feel content. So I really stress that point about stress and anxiety management. And my little one, she's in elementary school grade. She has anxiety, what to wear to school, and homework to do. So older people, younger people, our age people, we all have expectations and our reality. Sometimes they don't match. We get frustrated, we get upset. And one of the key things I point to them is, I need you to laugh every day. And they say, what are you talking about? I say, no, 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 no. Listen, is the important thing to understand is this, right? Any other emotion, anger, jealousy, rage, depression, sadness, exuberance, joy, anything you say tells me that you are either too much into your past or thinking too much into your future, right?
Right.
What tells me you're balanced? Laughter. When I laugh, for that split second, for that
You are
second
in
in time,
present moment.
I'm not thinking about anything else. Something is funny. Something I heard, something I read, something I saw is funny, and I'm laughing and I'm in the zone. I
Right.
am balanced, right?
Correct.
Being mindful, right?
Be
That
mindful.
is the key. And if we can all laugh every day, I guarantee you a lot of the problems in our world would be a little bit better, a little bit easier.
Little bit better, for sure, for sure. Yes, and that's what we just ruminate things so much. Like we
Right?
are either in the past or the future, very little in the present. So if we stay in the present, life will be so much simpler and so much better.
It's a sport, by the way. This thought process, how to train yourself to think and be mindful. It's a
Mindful.
sport. Okay, so
Hmm.
so 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 I've never played tennis, right? You give me a racket. Now I've played other sports. I played golf. I played cricket. I know to hit. My shoulder is
Hmm.
good. My elbow is good. My back is good. But you give me a tennis racket. I've never played it. Man, either I'm going to hit it right in the net or I'm going to throw it out. It takes practice. It takes
Practice.
practice for
Yes.
the mind and the body and the muscles to get coordinated, right?
Hmm.
Being mindful is the same thing. It's a sport.
Correct.
Meditation. Okay. Meditation is a sport. People get frustrated. Okay. I tried meditation. Oh man, there were so many things in my head and I couldn't do it. I don't feel I'm doing it well. It doesn't matter. Just keep trying.
Yeah.
Your 10th sitting of meditation will be better than your first sitting. Your
Yeah.
100th sitting of meditation will be better than your 10th sitting. Okay, that's a guarantee. If you keep applying yourself a little bit at a time, you will improve. Your body, mind will get coordinated and you will start, staying more balanced a little bit.
Absolutely. That you bring up a very, very valid point. I remember a thing, that an analogy that a mentor gave me.
Hmm.
She told me that you should practice meditation. Same thing. Like I said, like it doesn't work for me. I cannot focus on my breath. And she's like, you have to practice it until it becomes like a habit. So she's
Right.
like, you don't have to train yourself to say wake up in the morning and brush your teeth. That's like
Mhm.
just a habit. So it
Right.
just has to be like that you wake up in the morning and you meditate. It shouldn't be forced, or it shouldn't be like, oh, I have to meditate. So
Yeah.
i
Right.
i took her word, and after that I feel like so much at ease, and like I'm like, no, I have to practice it.
Yeah. I mean, life, and sometimes there's the physical principles of life that are also ingrained and are also applicable to biological systems like us. The inertia, the fundamental principle of inertia is a body likes to keep doing what it is currently doing. A body
Hmm.
at rest will always be at rest till an external force acts on it, right?
Yeah.
Or a body in motion will always be in motion till an external force acts on it. That is the problem, the transition.
Hmm.
Once you get the transition done and you get into a groove, you will flow. Your inertia will carry on. So it's like any habit, right? You have good habits and bad habits, and you fall in habit and fall out of habit.
Out of
And sometimes you can force yourself. You can be your external force, right? To
it.
change yourself, to get the guidelines, with discussion and with thought process. And then once you achieve it, um, like your previous guest, right, Dr. Bashara, intermittent fasting, right? It's not for everybody initially, but if
Correct.
you keep trying it, and she, by the way, the last talk was beautiful, wonderful. I gained so many things on that. If you keep trying and if you do it right, it will keep getting better.
Right.
Your competition is against you. It's not with your neighbor. It's not with your daughter. It's not with your sister. It's against you, and you can keep bettering yourself.
Absolutely. Wow. That's awesome. Thank you, Bijoy.
Yeah.
And I know in the respect of time, let's touch
Sure.
on the
Let's
other
keep
points
moving.
because I don't
Yeah.
want to miss out on discussing the other points, which are again so important. So
Right.
let's touch point on your second pillar, which is the sleep,
Sure.
which I know it's so underrated. So
Yeah.
uh,
And,
tell us
and, and,
tell us
and
what you do to promote better sleep for your clients.
yes, and again, we have pharmacological options and non-pharmacological options. Sleep hygiene is a wonderful concept, I want to put in a plug for Discovery and National Geographic. A few years ago, they had come up with a wonderful article and a TV show on that. And if people can Google it, they will get a good idea of sleep hygiene on that. But here's the ultimate thing I need everybody to acknowledge and to pay attention to. We as humans are biological systems, right? We can repair ourselves, right? So if you take your car into the mechanic and the mechanic says, hey man, your alternator is not working or your muffler is not working, right? What do? They just take off the old one, put in a new one, boom. The car is not going to heal itself. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm going to give you fuel and I'm going to give you a nice environment and you can heal your own muffler. Man, I wish that it would be like that,
That
but
was
it's not.
possible.
Right. So then us humans though, the difference between us is if given the right environment, if given the right approach, we
Mm-hmm.
can heal a lot of the damage that sometimes we do, or something else does to our body. And sleep, I strongly feel sleep is the time where we repair the micromolecular level machinery in our body the best, right? And so I ask my patients that, hey, make sure you get restful sleep, and the time duration, I always encourage my patients to minimum get 6 hours. 7 to 8 hours is ideal. If you get 9 to 10 hours, great, fantastic. Now if you sleep more than 12 hours, you have a problem. But ideally, if everybody could get a minimum of 6 and ideally 7 to 8 hours of restful sleep, it would be wonderful. And couple of points that I always mention along with this is the place where you sleep, right? In a 24-hour, I'm talking about a 24-hour zone, right? Because there are nurses and there are policemen and there are doctors who work nights and all that, right? So they sleep in the daytime, right? And but the need for sleep is still the same. They need to
Right.
sleep 7 to 8 hours, maybe at least 6 hours. The place where people and humans sleep, it should be very quiet, but not completely silent. There should be a little bit of background noise, white noise, or whatever
White
you want to call
noise.
it, right?
Mhm.
It could be a fan, it could be a humidifier. Nowadays, there are some YouTube things that you can put on, and it can gently
Mhm.
lull you into sleep and all that stuff. So play around with whatever you need to play around with, but make sure the room is not completely silent. And the reason is very simple. In this day and age where we live, our spouses, our children, our dogs and cats, and our neighbors can create a little bit of noise now and then, right? In a
Mhm.
completely silent room, even a little bit of noise reverberates much louder, and then people wake up, their sleep gets interrupted. But if you have a background noise going on, a little
Right.
bit of noise is not going to influence your sleep
Oh,
detrimentally,
that
right?
makes sense.
And that is the key part there. So obviously the room needs to be a little bit dark because we humans tend to sleep with our eyes closed, right? So we need a little bit of darkness. Okay. Ideally speaking, we should not do any screen time, phone and tablets and TVs and all that, preferably an hour, at least half an hour before your head needs to be on the pillow. And if you can work on that, that'll be wonderful. So go back and do a little bit of reading, old school book reading. You can pray, you can meditate, you can take a long bath, you can do your other things. Just please try and avoid screen time an hour before you want your head on the pillow, right? Nobody wants to put their head on the pillow and then wait for 2 hours to go to sleep, right?
Exactly.
People want to
Correct.
be sleeping as quickly as they put their head on the pillow. And if you want to do that, then an hour before, please, please, please shut off your screens. Now, there are some Kindle and tablets which have the blue light or whatever light and all that. And I'm not technologically proficient to tell you whether that works or interrupts or not. As a standard rule, this is my standard rule. I try and request my patients that, hey, please avoid screen time an hour before bedtime. Try not to do a lot of caffeinated products after 4 p.m. because that's again a stimulant and that may keep you up a little bit, later in the day and all that stuff. And the most important time is please have a fixed time, right? If you want to go to bed at 10, please go to bed at 10, 6, 7 days of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Life is not ideal, right? Sometimes we go on vacation, sometimes somebody is sick. Sure, in those days, your sleep will be a little bit off. But
Correct.
most days of the month, most
I
days of the
stick to
year,
that.
you are living a regular routine, right? So try and go to bed at the same time. Try and wake up at the same time. Get your internal body clock accustomed to the external body clock that you want
Mm-hmm.
and then go from there.
Correct. Just keep that rhythm that our body has in
Yeah,
balance. Just by like, otherwise, over the weekends, we'll be like, oh, yes, let's just stay up till 2. And then
right.
come Monday, we are again into
We are
the
struggling. We are
routine. We
struggling.
are struggling. So,
Yeah,
if we have a beautiful sleep hygiene, then we don't have to struggle.
yeah. And it takes a few
Okay.
weeks. Again, it's the question of habit, question of inertia, right? If you
Mhm.
force yourself to do it, get into a disciplinary pattern, it will take you 4 weeks, 6 weeks. But a good sleep hygiene solves a lot of the problems. A lot
Lot
of
of
people do
problems.
not need pharmacological help. Some people do, and I'm not
Yeah.
denying that. And for them, yes, go to talk to your healthcare provider and stuff. But try the sleep hygiene
Go
four to
on.
6 weeks religiously, and then see how things go.
How things go. Perfect. That's a very valid point. And so, touching base on the third pillar that you have, which is a favorite of mine, obviously,
Yeah.
nutrition. So, how do you talk your patients into or introduce the topic of nutrition? Nutrition is such a big topic, and
Yeah.
everyone has their own formulas. They have their own beliefs. So, how do you start that discussion?
I start that discussion by giving your number to. No, I mean, listen. As physicians, so I went through medical school in the United States. I went through residency in the United States, and unfortunately, we do not get enough time, enough dedication, enough guidance on understanding the nutrients that go into our body and how they manifest in disease, in sickness, in health, and how to manage it, how to balance it out, right? And so thankfully for me, I have picked up a lot from people and friends like you, and other people in my life, and how I introduce nutrition is by again making one of my quote unquote statements, and I say that we are what we eat, we are what we drink. Right? Obviously, this is not my statement. I've heard it from somebody, and I repeat that. But it is. I really believe it to the core. Okay, and the simple living in Houston, living in a oil and gas city, I always give an example that hey, listen, gas is almost $5 now, right? And if you find a gas, somebody selling it for cheap for $3 a gallon, right? If you go there, chances are that there may be some contaminants, there may be something bad, and your engine will start knocking in a few days, a few weeks, or maybe immediately. Okay, so it is important for every moving vehicle, every moving biological organism to have good nutrition, to have good hydration, and yes, there are so many different pathways. People say, hey, what kind of diet should I do? Should I do a keto diet? Should I do a Mediterranean diet? Should I do a vegan diet? Uh, Paleo? And what I tell them is, I need you to do a balanced diet, right? And my balance will be slightly different than yours, slightly different than my patients, right? And the point I try to make for them is beverages with calories, or sugar substitutes,
Sugar.
like even quote unquote zero products and diet
Mhm.
products, right? Those tend not to be very nutritionally helpful to us. The problem with nutrition is it's a tongue versus the gut and body mind connection, right? Sometimes we eat for our tongue, sometimes we eat for our taste. We grew up a certain kind, it's culturally relevant to us. I'm sad, I'm going to think of my mother's cooking, and that's going to help me, not feel as sad. um, um, Compensatory mechanism. So there's a lot of things
Right.
involved in nutrition and hydration. But chances are that if you can reduce your beverages with calories or artificial sweeteners, you will be better off.
Right.
100%. There is no two ways to that. And the other thing I try and stress for them is this. I do acknowledge that I am not a 100% plant-based person, but I do acknowledge that 70% of your
Right.
diet, if it comes from plant-based, will be very helpful. Less inflammation, more gut health related. And Dr. Bashar, your previous topic was excellent on that. I hope they listened to it and learned something from it. And I also mentioned one thing, that processed food is killing us. Okay, in
Mm.
this day and in this age, anything that you take out from a bottle and you can drink it or eat it, anything you take out from a can, anything you take out from a package, no, that's not the best way to go. If you take time to get the ingredients and curate your own food, that might be the best time. Now, if you're working two jobs and you are not sleeping even 2 hours, you're not going to have a lot of time cooking and cleaning and all that. I acknowledge it. But overall, if you want to ask me what kind of nutrition, I'm going to say balanced, more plant based, and less of the packaged stuff.
Perfect, perfect. Those are great starting points because then they can go in as much depth they want. But that those
Sure.
are very valid points. And also the first point that you mentioned: don't drink your calories, right? Rather drink water, and you'll
Yeah.
be better off.
Yeah, and again, I acknowledge. I tell my patients, listen, I am not perfect, right? I'm not going to ask you that you completely cut out everything. But what you
Exactly.
can do is tone it down. Okay, if you're drinking beverage 3 or 4 times a day, which has 200, 400 calories in it each time you drink it, see if you can do less. Okay, if you want to do coffee, some patients do 10 cups of coffee a day, 5 cups of coffee a day. Tone it down. Sacrifice. You need a little bit of sacrifice. You don't have to make it zero, right? That will be almost impossible for a lot of my patients to do. But if you tone it down, if you add and supplement healthier options, slowly you will come to a balance that may be better for you.
Absolutely. Awesome. Awesome. Valid point, 100%. And lastly, let's touch base on your last pillar, which is exercise, which
Sure.
I know, again, all of us struggle with.
Yeah.
Sometimes some overdo it, some underdo it. So,
Mhm.
how do you bring balance, and how do you motivate people to bring balance there?
Yeah, and I struggle with it myself. I'll be the first to acknowledge it. My life needs a little more exercise than I'm getting on a regular basis, and when I use the word exercise, some of my patients take it a little bit wrongly, and some of them feel intimidated a little bit. They
Mhm.
conjure up a image of, oh, I need to spend two hundred
Gym.
dollars, go to a gym, and work out
Mhm.
with hugely muscular and fit, humans, and it's no, that is not what I meant, or that is not what I'm striving for you to do. Everybody has to do it in their own capacity, in their own whatever works for them. So I do tell them that this is what I think of mobility, right? Exercise, the definition from my point of view is you need to indulge in an activity that can get your heart rate at least 30 beats above your resting heart rate for 20 to 30 minutes constantly, right? One of the most important and frequent things I see on my patients is my patients say, "Hey, I walk 10,000 steps, I walk 15,000 steps, I walk 20,000 steps, and I'm still not losing weight. I'm still not feeling good. I'm still not feeling very strong and agile and flexible and fit." And I tell them, "Listen, I love it. I love it, the fact that you're getting so many steps. But are you sure you're getting so many steps at the same time? And if you are not getting it, if you're walking 10 feet and talking to somebody and doing something, and then walking 40 feet and doing something and stopping, and your heart rate is not persistently higher, right?
Mhm.
So you may not get a lot of the benefit. You will get some benefit. Listen, I would rather you walk 20,000 steps than 2,000 steps. But
Right.
just because you walk 20,000 steps, quote unquote, does not mean you did your exercise for the day. If you can still find the 15, 20 minutes to get your heart rate up 20 to 30 beats above the normal, you will be better. And again, the competition is with yourself, it's not with somebody else. It's not to prove a point to me. You need to do a little bit better, a little bit in a customized fashion. and maybe you eventually the benefits will start showing up in your thing. And again, one more point I wanted to emphasize is a lot of people, come to me frustrated with their inability to lose weight, right? And then we talk a lot about how important it is to manage all factors: your stress, your anxiety, your sleep, your nutrition. All that stuff have to be taken care of for your body to slowly lose the weight and to keep it off. Your
Right.
stress hormones need to be dealt with and all that stuff, right? And the some of my patients do improve their diet and change a little bit, some of them a little bit drastically, and then they come back and they have lost 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds in a few months. And I ask them, hey, what kind of exercise do you do? No, not much, or hardly at all. And then I point out to them that here's something that may interfere in the long term health problem. Okay, there is something called a body fat index. Okay, and there's something called a body mass index, BMI, and body fat. These are two different things, right? Body mass index is to your height, to your weight, men, women, kind of average, nothing very specific in that. And body fat measurements, which athletic trainer can do for you, a nutritionist sometimes can do for you, a physical therapist can do for you. Nowadays, you have fancy machines in gyms that can measure your body fat mass or body percentage body fat, right? That needs to be understood. When you lose weight without exercising properly, you may end up losing a lot of your muscle mass, right?
Right.
So imagine there's a person who's coming to me today and they are 200 pounds, right? And I give them my spiel and they fall in love with me and they do exactly what I tell them, except for the exercise part. They come back 3 months later and say, "Yay, I'm 180 pounds. I lost 20 pounds. Great, great, great." So they have lost a little bit of body fat and they have also lost a little bit
Lost
of
muscle.
muscle mass, right?
Mm.
The problem is this: after that, something happens to them and they get busy and their lifestyle changes and slowly they gain back the weight, right? A year later, I see them, they're back to 200 pounds. And then they will say, "Oh, I'm at 200 pounds. I didn't gain, I didn't lose, I'm still the same," right? No. The problem is when you gain your 20 pounds back, you're gaining purely fat.
That.
You
Correct.
are not gaining muscle unless you work out and you really build
Mhm.
muscle. That's different, right? So then they come back a year later and I tell them, hey, you're back to the same weight. Try and work on this and lose some weight. They go down, they become 180 and then back to 200, 180, 200, 180, 200. 5 years
Mm.
later, they're still at 200 pounds, but their body fat percentage may have gone from 30% to 40%
Wow.
or something
Yeah.
like that. And they
Correct.
don't realize that. Okay. And with higher body fat mass, health problems start creeping in much quicker. So again, I try to emphasize that every weight loss program, every nutrition program, every health program should incorporate a little bit of muscle training, resistant training, and
Mm-hmm.
of course 15-20 minutes of cardio to get your heart rate up and keep it up. So I try to emphasize that. For people who are a little bit older who have pain issues, I try to emphasize non-impact activities, right? Stationary bike versus running, swimming, maybe water aerobics, water activities. A lot of my patients, and especially people in the Medicare group, I try to emphasize balance training. Tai Chi, yoga for them is great as an adjunct, not completely, but as an adjunct. High intensity exercises, even for 5 minutes. You see, there was a beautiful article in 2017, 2018 from Ireland that came out saying dementia can be halted or slowed down if people in the senior group can even do 5 minutes of high intensity exercises every
Wow.
day.
Mm.
And I throw in these tidbits now and then, and I try to tailor it to my patients, practical situation, and hopefully something sticks. Hopefully it helps.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And I love your point that even though I know nowadays so many people are obsessed with just counting steps, right? Like
Sure.
they'll be like uh, dedicatedly they are just counting steps. But you make a valid point that still, if you have walked that many steps, but it's in breaks,
Stop
so
and go
that is
fashion, right?
not at the go. So then it's not going to help because they never raise their heart
it,
rate.
it will help. I want to make sure, Niti, I'm very clear about this. It will help than not doing anything at all, right?
Right,
But the 20 minutes or 30 minutes of getting your heart rate up
heart
and
rate.
keeping it up,
Right.
that you may not be achieving if you just
That
continue to
benefit is
exercise.
not achieved.
Yeah, yeah,
Perfect, perfect. Yes, and the resisted exercises, as you mentioned, just a little
important.
bit, but
You
that
know,
that can be life changing.
women, more than 50% of my clientele is women.
Oh wow.
Women
Oh.
get osteoporosis, unfortunately, around menopause, after menopause, right? It's pretty
Mm-hmm.
common. In society, we have almost learned to accept it. A lot of my women patients say, oh, yeah, I'm osteopenic or osteo. No, it doesn't have to be like
Have
that.
to be like that.
most
Correct.
of most of the women, if they invest a little bit in their health and start doing the resistant training and weight bearing exercises, it has clearly shown that osteopenia can be avoided, osteoporosis can be avoided, sorry, to a great extent. So yeah, I encourage that very much.
Absolutely. Wow. So if everybody can use these measures, the four pillars that you mentioned, and they progress, then they measure their progress along the way as to how they are doing better.
Right.
I'm sure they'll be in a much better place in their healthcare journey.
I,
And
I I
so
hope they will feel confident about their
they'll
own
feel
health.
confident.
Most of the time, the question I hear from them is, "Am I doing okay? What should I do? What more
Right.
should I do? Or what should I focus on?" Right? And
Correct.
and and these are the yardsticks. And I guarantee very few things I guarantee in life, but I guarantee this: if you are able to laugh every day, if you are able to enjoy life most of the time,
Yes.
stay balanced, right? If you're able to sleep 6, 7, 8 hours most nights, if you are able to imbibe nutrition, eat and drink and digest, your digestive system works and everything is working well, and if you're mobile, if you're exercising, if active, life threatening diseases do not exist and have not completely taken over your body today. Because if it does, if you start getting, unfortunately, genetic causes or environmental causes of anything life threatening, one of these four pillars or all four pillars go out the window. When we see people with serious health issues, they are not able to sleep, not able to laugh, or their mood is off, they're not able
Mm.
to digest food properly, they gain a lot of weight or lose a lot of weight. That is more concerning, actually. And then they're not able to move, right? So if you can do all these four pillars, and if you can use them as benchmarks, I almost guarantee you're not fighting a life-threatening illness.
Wow, absolutely. And that way, if for folks listening to us, you know that you don't have to track your lipid profile numbers, or you don't have to track your blood pressure numbers, which I'm sure people come in, day
Yeah,
out
yeah.
tracking, and that's what they are following. So, but the
It,
basis is this four pillars. So those numbers will get better if you focus on these four things.
correct, and that is true, right? These tests, the laboratory tests that we do, science has advanced to a lot of, really excellent level. There are so many biomarkers, so many profiles that we can do. And as a primary care physician, I run basic panels for everybody once a
Right.
year, especially if you're 40 and older. I will check, if you're okay with it, I will check, make sure you're not diabetic, I'm going to check, make sure you're not having high
Mhm.
cholesterol, I'm going to check your kidney, liver function. And those are beautiful things, those are markers that do not have symptoms, right? So I'm not
Mhm.
saying to you that please don't get them checked. No, you get them checked, that's fine. But that is not something you control. Okay,
Mhm.
if it has to have happened, if genetically you're something off or something else has to have happened, those markers, unfortunately, slowly may not be in the normal zone. But what can you do? What can you do? And you need to focus on these four things, and that will get you to a really longer, active, healthier quality of life.
Awesome, awesome. So, my key takeaway is the four pillars, the four keys, the four mantras that you shared is number one that I personally take away, Bijoy, from you is rumination, which I feel like I do a lot. If we have that balance of reality and expectations, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, we would be in such a better place.
And,
Uh,
and rumination is not a bad thing, Niti. Again, it's the paralysis
right.
following the rumination. That's the key thing I want to emphasize. See, nobody can stop their mind from thinking in the past or the present. But if you get so overwhelmed with your past or
Mhm.
your future that you don't enjoy your present, don't act on your present, that's a problem.
That's a problem. Absolutely. Sure. I'll remember that, Bijoy. And so my second
Sorry,
one is,
I hope I'm not too preachy. I really don't mean to
no,
be, but
no, absolutely no.
I feel
Those are
passionate about
those
these
are
things.
all valid points. And so my second one is the sleep hygiene that you mentioned. That it has to be a habit. It has to be a system that you create such that you are sleeping well. Do what is needed, but make it a habit such that you're doing it every day.
Sure.
And from your nutrition, I love that idea that 70% of whatever diet you are following, if 70% of it is plant-based, you'll be ahead of all the inflammation, all the diseases, and you'll come out healthier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And movement, whatever, do a movement that you enjoy.
Right.
Anything that's forceful is not going to happen. So
And you're
do,
not going to continue for a very
you're
long time.
not going to
You can
continue.
force yourself for a week or two or a month or so,
Exactly,
but for the
exactly.
rest of your life, you have to
Yeah.
do something you passionately love and you agree with. You may not passionately love it, but you agree with, and then you'll keep
It
doing
will,
it.
you'll continue. Awesome, awesome. No, I'm sure, hopefully this message reaches everyone such that they are better and ahead in their healthcare journey, and incorporating all those tips. I love it,
Right.
Bijoy.
Thank you very much, Niti. It's a privilege.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you, Bijoy, for your time.
Okay, bye, Niti.